guys. Welcome to the Yosemite gear list video. We're going to talk about everything you're going to need for coming to Yosemite, both the general stuff if you're not planning on backpacking, which also just everyone needs, and then the more spicier topic of conversation, which is all of the backpacking gear, the ins and outs, why you need certain stuff the way it is. And so we're going to talk about that gear list. Going through, let me share my screen. There's a PDF that was sent to you. And so that's what we'll be using. Hopefully you recognize this. We sent it out to everybody along with this video. And this is kind of a complete guide to what you'll need to bring, the basics. So starting with the general stuff, this is everybody. If you're coming backpacking, if you're not coming backpacking, everyone for the days that we're exploring the park needs to bring, obviously, clothing. But when packing your clothing, consider the fact that it's usually about 70 degrees in the park, and it is colder in the morning, like most places, cold in the morning, warmer midday, it gets cold again at night. Some of the trails that we'll be on do get a little like misty, and you could potentially get wet from the waterfalls. It could be kind of overcast some of the days. It usually on average rains like only 5 days out of the entire month of June in Yosemite, so we're not expecting a ton of rain. It could be a fluke. Rain is God's blessing. However, typically it's not going to rain. It just might get a little cloudy. So you want to consider though, that every time we leave the Airbnbs in the morning, we're not coming back until like dinner time that night. Like we are leaving, we are driving into the park, we're spending the day hiking, getting lunch in the park, doing another hike, sightseeing. So as you leave for the day, like you want to be layered up and have like multiple, like, okay, it's cold now, but it's going to get warm later. So I'm going to take this off. Then I'm going to put it back on when it gets cold again, because we're gone all day. And then within that, we're doing hikes. So you don't need to be in like high fashion gear. You want to be dressed for like being in the woods. Yeah. And waterfalls. Also sunscreen. Not all the trails have the best coverage because we are climbing alongside waterfalls. So sometimes like we'll be poking out onto the rocks. Yosemite is absolutely beautiful, and there's giant pine trees, and some trails are super shady and some are not. So we just want to make sure, like, it would suck to get sunburned on the very first day and then kind of have to like deal with the pain of that for the rest of the week. So just protect yourself that way. The toiletry situation, the Airbnbs are normal Airbnbs, so it doesn't come with shampoo and all of that provided. So bring your stuff, bring like kind of a small like toiletry bag or whatever, so that you're not like exploding all over the bathroom that is shared amongst many people. And then everything else is just kind of like the normal, like if you're going hiking, what are you going to want to have with you? You're going to want a day pack. You're going to want a water bottle. You're probably going to want your camera, or if you have a fancy camera or something to kind of what am I trying to say? Save the memories. And then hiking boots, comfortable shoes. And yeah. Oh, one thing I didn't put on this list is a bathing suit as well. You're going to want a bathing suit. Definitely pack that for both the backpacking and for the non-backpacking, because there's a river. We could go floating depending on the weather. There's waterfalls.
It's pretty cold. Yeah. But it still feels really good.
It's amazing. Yeah. Actually, it's thoroughly amazing. All right. And then, so if you're not planning on backpacking, stop here. You don't need to go any further. But for all of you who have the really fun challenge of getting together all your backpacking gear, if you don't have it already, this is the basics of what we recommend you bring. Quick.
Side note, real quick, when you do pack your gear up, whether you're on the backpacking trip or not, there is limited space in the Jeep and the van. So one big suitcase if you're not going on the backpacking trip, and like a little carry-on, maybe. And if you're going on the backpacking trip, basically your pack with a little carry-on. Your pack will have all your camping gear and all your basically backpacking stuff, and the carry-on could be for like any extra clothes you want to bring or anything extra that you feel like you might need while we're staying at the Airbnbs. But yeah, there is limited space, so don't be bringing like 2 or 3 full-size suitcases, because there's not going to be enough room for that.
No, like one bag is ideal.
There should be washer and dryer at the Airbnbs. I'll double check. So if you do need to wash some clothes because you didn't bring a change of clothes for every day or whatever, that's an option too. I'll find out and I'll let the group know on the group me when we have those. But I'm pretty sure they have that.
Yeah. And either way, like one bag, don't be excessive. I tend to overpack. Like I'll bring like 8 outfits for the 4 days, but like one carry-on, like rolling carry-on size bag, and then like a backpack, like either your day pack, hiking pack, or, you know, if you're backpacking, you're going to have your big bag, but definitely no more than 2 bags per person because we need to manage space in the van and Jeep. Also, so as we get into this backpacking list, I want to note it is way better to share with somebody. So we have a couple married couples. That's awesome. They'll be sharing tents and all of that. If you are single or even dating, you're not going to be commingling co-ed in the tents unless you're married. So find a buddy of the same sex and share stuff. Like 2 people in a tent keep the tent 1,000 times warmer than 1 person in a tent. So having the body heat up the air around you, it's just a way more comfortable sleeping experience on the trail. And it's so much nicer to split the weight of a tent between 2 different packs. So if you have a 2-person tent and you're coming on your own, like reach out in the group me and be like, hey, yo, I have a 2-person tent. If anyone wants to bunk with me, you know, slumber party style it. And that'll make our footprint at the campsite way better because we don't have like 16 individual tents. And then also it's just nicer for carrying the lighter loads and all of that.
Yeah, and then as far as tents go too, you can rent tents if you don't have one from REI. You can talk to your friends that go camping a lot to borrow tents. Typically, unless it's a backpacking tent, they usually weigh 4 to 5 pounds. So definitely splitting it over 2 people is kind of the way to go. They do make mesh tents that actually are put up with your trekking poles that are much lighter. But really, honestly, the best bet you can do is if you have this or you want to rent it is actually getting into a hammock. That keeps you off the ground, which will conserve body heat. And if you have a good sleeping bag, maybe with a liner or something in it, like you should be plenty warm. You might not have something over your head, particularly unless you have like a tarp or something that can go over you. But with a good mummy sleeping bag and the hammock, that's kind of the way to go when you're not in the desert.
Yeah. Yeah. So with all of this stuff, consider like if you're buying stuff for this trip, if you're not planning on becoming an avid backpacker after this, go cheap. You don't need, it's 1 night in the woods.
Or borrow. That's the best bet.
Yeah. Borrowing from your friends that camp a lot is amazing too. So like you don't have to spend $1,000 on camping gear for this one overnight to do Half Dome or wherever we end up backpacking. So go cheap. If you're like, this is the kickoff to my backpacking adventure life, then definitely invest in long-term gear. The stuff that we have, we usually keep and use for years on end. Like I have the same backpacking pack that I had for like 10 years since college.
We just recently bought a new tent only because Karis wanted it to be a different color. The tent we've had for the last 5 years. It's still good.
It's still good. The new one's better. And it was time. We had it for 5 years. But anyway, but it's still good. So like if you invest in really good camping gear, it will last you such a long time. And then you have it. It's like a one-time investment that you're making into backpacking. But if you're not planning on being an avid backpacker from now on, go cheap. You don't have to go crazy and buy like the most expensive, highest level gear. If you want advice, reach out to us and we can definitely hook you up. And then when it comes to like the hammocks, versus like ground tent, hammocks are amazing if you're camping in a place with trees. So if you're like, I'm going to do a ton of camping from now on, but most of that camping is around the San Diego area, not many opportunities for hanging hammocks because we are mostly high desert area and there's not always a ton of trees around. But in Yosemite, there will be. And like Ryan was saying, heat leaves the body to go into something colder. So if you're sleeping on the ground, there is never going to be enough heat that your body can produce to heat the ground, the whole earth under you. And so it endlessly sucks heat out of your body. So in places like Alaska, it's actually like a golden rule for winter camping is you would sleep in a hammock tent because it's off the ground. And so it's going to keep you so much warmer and be way more comfortable typically than sleeping on the ground. That's also why we have sleeping pads. They're kind of a must or you're going to freeze, but we'll get to that. So backpacks. So backpacks, they are different from your standard Janssen high school backpack. And the biggest difference, and the thing that you really want to look for, is that waist strap that snaps around your waist. That is going to be the thing that transfers the weight from being carried on your shoulders to being carried in your legs. And ergonomically speaking, across multiple miles, that makes a massive difference in your comfort level and the long-term effects on your body. So you should never, while on the trail, be feeling sore on your shoulders from your pack bearing down on your shoulders. You'll look at us, we'll give a demonstration when we get closer, like the pre-trip meeting of the backpack, and you'll see there's like a triangle of space above our shoulder. It's not leaning on our shoulder weighing us down, because that's going to hurt your back so bad, like within a mile of the trail. So having that waist strap around your waist massively saves your body from a lot of aches and pains on the trail. So as you're looking for a backpacking pack, go with one that has a waist strap. And then as far as like ranges of sizes, honestly, like the amount of stuff you're going to have to fit in the pack is the same no matter what. So go with the thing that's like, if you're trying them on in the store, the one that feels most comfortable with like length for your torso. I have a short torso, so I have a smaller pack. Yeah, but the waist strap, that's like the biggest thing. It'll be listed as a backpacking backpack. So like when you Google search this, or when you click on the link that we've provided of like an example of something that you could get, you'll see it's listed as a backpacking pack versus just a standard backpack.
Yeah. And then, I mean, also you'll want a water reservoir or water bladder. Typically they come in like 2 liters or 3 liters. The great thing about being in Yosemite is we're going to pass a lot of creeks and streams. So, here in San Diego, when we go backpack in the desert, we have to carry all of our water most of the time over multiple days, which really sucks because water weighs like 8 pounds a liter. So when you're carrying 6 liters of water in your pack,
It's crazy.
You've got just way too much weight in just water alone.
You're drinking just to get rid of it.
Yeah. But yeah, great thing is we'll be able to fill up our packs wherever we go when we cross the streams. I have a 4-liter water filter. I know some other people probably have water filters, so if you have one, bring one so we can filter water faster. But we'll be able to refill basically at every pit stop that we make at a stream or a creek or whatever, and get some really good fresh snow melt water, and not have to carry a lot of weight, which is going to be really nice.
Yeah. And super fast side note. So you may notice, like, if you're an avid backpacker, you would look at this list and be like, that's a little light. There's no first aid kit, rope, whistle, knife, like all the other little things. It's because we don't necessarily need every single person to have that stuff on the trail, so long as there's a decent number of them within the group. So like Ryan and I will each be carrying that kind of stuff, like a water filter. Every single person coming on the trip, if you don't already have one, don't feel like you have to go out and buy a professional water filter for this one overnight. Like, we will provide that for you out of our own packs. But if you have that kind of stuff, definitely bring it. But yeah, this list is like the basics of like, if you are buying all fresh backpacking gear, here is what you definitely need. And then everything on top of that is just kind of like excess awesomeness. Things like water filters. So if you have it, bring it. If you don't worry about it, because we have a water filter and a way of filtering everyone's water if needed. And that's what we did last year, and it worked out great.
Yep.
All right, trekking poles. So back in the day, when I first was not really a hiker, I thought trekking poles were the nerdiest thing on the planet, and I would never, ever be that person on the trail. I thought it was only for birders and old people, but trekking poles have changed my life, and I will never go on a big hike, especially with a heavy pack on my back, without them.
They will save your legs.
They are such a
It's
difference
like having
maker.
4 legs when you're
Yeah,
using them.
it's amazing. So especially on like steep downhills. And the biggest difference that they make is when you have a super heavy pack on your back, like you are top heavy. So if you're leaning forward and it's a really steep grade on uneven ground, just having those 2 extra points of contact with the ground put you in like a way better ability to be able to keep your balance and kind of navigate like an uneven trail while you're so top heavy with this massive pack on your back. Because leaning over, like you'll notice like all your weight's up top, and it's just it's a different dynamic. So trekking poles is everyone must have them. If you don't have them, reach out, because they're cheap. Like the more expensive they get, it's because they're lighter and like made of better, less breakable material and all of that. But you can find like $15 trekking poles on Amazon. So
And they are really great too, because when your legs are just worked and super tired, you can literally use them. They usually have straps that go around your waist, and you can use the tension of like planting them and then using your arms to basically pull yourself up the mountain, and your legs follow suit, but they're not doing all the work.
yeah.
And they make, like I said earlier, the tents that use trekking poles that are super lightweight. So they have dual purpose.
Yeah. Also in snow. So we may encounter patches of snow, maybe more than patches of snow. It's been kind of like a wild rain and precipitation year. So the higher we get in Yosemite, there's definitely going to be a lot more snow this year, a lot more going on. So we use them to poke through to make sure that you're not walking out on like a hollow snow shelf. Which like don't let that freak you out. We'll be kind of in the front of the pack if there's like risk of that, and we'll be leading the charge, but they have multiple survival uses out on the trail. So all that to say, like, don't be deceived like I was thinking they're only for birders and weirdos. Like it is a really big, very necessary tool if you're going on a longer, kind of more extreme backpacking experience. So yeah, okay, so sleeping bags, mummy bags. The picture that you see, this is called a mummy bag. It is not your standard Walmart sleeping bag. Mummy bags are designed to keep you warm in all weather conditions. So the good ones go down to like 15 degrees, where they will keep you alive, safe, and happy in your sleep down to that degree. And they like, the reason why they have that weird shape is they come all the way up over your head, and you can scrunch them down so that you're just like breathing out of them, but like all the heat of your whole body is trapped inside. It won't get that extreme, but they're definitely like way warmer than a standard sleeping bag. And they are typically sold in what's called a stuff sack. So you'll be able to like pack them in, and like the good ones get packed down to like this big, because you like use all the different like straps and stuff to pull them down, so they fit better in your sleeping bag. They're lighter and they stay way warmer. So if you're looking for like a really good sleeping bag, a mummy bag is the way to go. And it could make a big difference. That and the sleeping pad make the biggest difference in your night of sleep, because it gets cold at night in Yosemite at high elevations. So sleeping pads, that's another thing. Just like I was saying with the ground sucking the heat out of your body, sleeping pads are what will save you from freezing at night. This is, I mean, you think like, oh, it's only like 2 inches of air. How is that making such a big difference? It's because it's a buffer zone, just like the insulation in the walls of your home make a massive difference. This is insulation between your body and the ground. So it's creating a little pocket of air, and all your body has to do is heat that pocket, and then it stops there. It's not going to continually transfer heat from your body into the ground. So you stay so much warmer. And they make these, they're cheap. They pack down super small. They're easy to blow up. We have little motors that do that too, that we can let you use on the trail. It's a massively worthwhile investment. If you ever have to sleep in a sleeping bag on the ground, a sleeping pad, this is what changes like the game with a good night of sleep out on the trail. Yeah. And then do you want to talk about propane in the cooking situation?
Yeah, so propane, we'll need this to obviously make our food. We'll be having dehydrated meals. If you're familiar with dehydrated meals, you know some of them suck. They just don't taste good. So I mean, I could say go out and buy some and try them and find ones you like. But it's kind of a gamble. You might find something you really like, you might find something you don't. Everybody that's coming on the backpacking trip should have some, so maybe we can switch and barter if you don't like the one that you picked out. But the already hydrated meals, we'll use the propane. We have jet boils. We have 2. If anybody else has any jet boils, bring those. And basically what we do is we'll just boil water, pour it into the bag, let it sit for like 10 minutes. It'll rehydrate your meal. And that's what we'll be eating, in addition to like the snacks and, things that we have in our pack that we could just munch on as we're hiking. But these will be like our like big end of day or breakfast kind of deals. Because we're not going to be carrying around a range, so we're not going to be able to really cook anything up. And yeah, I mean, we can give recommendations of what we like when it comes to dehydrated meals, but it's a crapshoot. So, just I'd say they're not super expensive. So if you want to get a few different ones to try,
light, so it's not the worst carrying them.
And I mean, really, it's we're probably gonna have one dinner, one breakfast, and then snacks, everything in between. So
yeah.
But yeah, everyone should bring a thing of propane just to make sure we have enough. That'll also help too because we'll bring coffee. We have a French press with our jet boil, so we can actually make coffee for everybody, in the morning. And yeah. Godspeed with you picking something that tastes good.
Not everybody. So this is just what we recommend you get because it's the lightest thing. Like we said, that extra pound or 2 makes a massive difference over the course of 16 miles. So the food can be really heavy. Like I saw once a girl carrying like a bushel of apples in her brain on a trail. Like, can you imagine? That's so much weight, which like there's nothing wrong with having an apple, but
if you want to carry it, by all means.
for the most part, it's good to have super lightweight food. And this is like astronaut food. Like it's completely dehydrated. It's as light as a packet of ramen because ramen also is dehydrated. So all you have to do is add boiling water for it to come to life. Same with instant mashed potatoes. We bring instant mash backpacking really all the time and it's delicious.
Those are the best.
But it's a packet that's like super lightweight and all you have to do is boil water super fast in your jet boil and add it and it like makes it into a nice hot meal. So we use this brand a ton, the one that's in the picture. And you really can't go wrong with like, if there's mashed potatoes and chicken in it, it's going to be delicious. There's
something missing on there too, utensils. You're gonna want to get some kind of camping utensil, either a fork, a spoon, or a spork. Just something that you're gonna be able to eat with. Don't worry about cups because those will be provided.
Yeah. But yeah, so for the food, like if it's mac and cheese, that's a really good one. If it has mashed potatoes in it, it's going to be good. The rest are kind of a gamble. We tend to avoid the ones that have a lot of beans because that can be a sketchy situation. And then whichever ones you get, like we've tried 99% of them because it's kind of a fun game on the trail is to bring different ones and see like, oh, what are we feeling tonight? Are we feeling risky?
It's only fun if you have a backup that you enjoy. If you're stuck eating one that you don't like.
But we had to learn something, right? Which ones are good, which ones weren't. Stop scaring them.
I'm being honest. I'm just being honest with you guys. Like
the chocolate cheesecake dessert ones are so good too. Those are so good. They taste like chocolate pudding. But yeah, so it's kind of one of those. Yeah,
look up reviews online.
Read the reviews. Try them. It's not like if you buy like microwavable food, it's the same thing. Just try it in your house. Boil some water, stick it in, see what works. But also like if you're like, no, I don't want to take the risk. I'd rather just carry an extra couple pounds and have like other food that I know I'll like. Go for it. I just don't bring food that requires like a stove to cook or even a fire to cook because we may not have a fire. It's all going to be cooked in a jet boil. So we can boil it. And And that's it. That's how we cook. We boil things. So a can of soup, if you wanted to carry that, you can, that kind of stuff. And so these are just the easiest because they're the lightest weight. All you have to do is boil water, add it directly to the bag. There's instructions right on the back of how to heat them up. And usually they're really well balanced meals for backpackers. Like they're high calorie, packed with protein and fiber. So they're designed for what your body needs in that kind of a situation. Which makes them kind of the most ideal if you're looking for like the good backpacker food option. Yeah. And last but not least, you need a light. So a headlamp, because it will get dark. And we are going to be starting the trek the next morning, pending Half Dome tickets. If we are climbing Half Dome, we will be starting at 4:30-ish, like 5 a.m. from the camp. So we're going to be hiking for the first hour or two by headlamp. So you're going to want a good headlamp with you. And then also it just makes life so much easier in the campsite the night before and in your tent. And if you have to get up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, you're going to want a light. Don't stumble across a bear. So yeah. And then the last thing that's listed here is just different options. So if you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have any of this gear, or I'm seeing something that I need to like a gap to fill in, you don't have to buy everything. Like Ryan said earlier, find friends that go camping and backpacking. There's always people calling us or texting us to borrow stuff because we have like 10 tents and like just a bunch of random stuff. So
we don't have 10.
No, okay, maybe not 10, but we have a lot of stuff. So ask your friends and people that you know do this kind of stuff. They may have stuff that they'll lend you, or definitely have like recommendations of what you should get. And then REI rents stuff. If you know an SDSU student, SDSU rents out camping gear super cheap to their students. So you need a student ID. But if you know somebody that has one of those, maybe they can get rental camping gear for you, and that's like way cheaper than REI's rental prices. And then Amazon. Like if this is just like a one and done and you don't know that you'll ever use these things again, go to Amazon, get the $5 headlamp. Don't buy the top of the line gear from REI. I know like all of these links are REI stuff, because this is stuff that like I'm like, if I'm going to recommend something, I'm not going to recommend a terrible product, but these are cheaper of the nicer products in these links. So it's kind of like the middle of the line stuff that we linked in there for you. But do a little research. You can always ask us questions and ask around to all your backpacking friends. And then anyone in this group that has extra stuff, like if you're somebody that has like 3 tents, offer that up. If you're willing to share with the other people in the group that may not have the things, let everybody know so that we can all be equipped and ready to go. Definitely not something to stress over. Okay. So there will be gear for everybody. We're going to figure it out. If you're really having trouble finding something and filling the gaps you have, reach out to Ryan and I, and we will do our best to help. Yeah. And we can't wait, guys. It's going to be an insanely awesome trip.
It's going to be very epic. Yosemite is so awesome.
Oh my gosh. I'm just getting excited even just talking about the gear, because it's going to be amazing. I can't wait to use it all. Right. All right. So awesome. Love you guys. It's going to be amazing. See ya. And thank you for sticking in through this gear video.